welcome back to the pew. Y'all, we got an interesting one today, and I'm not gonna be doing that much talking. You may hear me do a lot of and
judging.
A lot of, yes, I have my crown on today, and I'm just gonna sit back. Today we are talking about parenting, and we're asking the question of these three lovely parents that we have before us. Do you idolize your children? Because this is an interesting thing for someone who has no children. I always thought that parents do too much when it comes to their children. That's just my personal opinion. I feel that parents do too much. Like parenting these kids, and let me tell you, can I just say this? And I ain't gonna say nothing else this whole show. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna say this, you guys. One of the reasons why I did not crave or like really have a strong desire, my thought was if I had children, then okay. You know, if that's what my lot was, okay. But I wasn't out there like, really wanting to be a mother. But one of the things I figured out for me was that I didn't want somebody, or I had a hard time thinking about somebody that I like gave all of this to. Like I just poured my everything. I changed my lifestyle up for them. I stopped this, I did this. I did things just for them to have, for these kids to grow up.
She had to stop herself.
And then, yes, I had to keep it holy. For these kids to grow up, talk to me any type of way, because you don't know what you're going to get.
Right. Sure.
You do not know what you're going to get. Here's the thing. You could be the best parent, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. You instilled them with all this stuff. You talked to them. You took care of them. And they can still grow up to be
challenged.
So I had a problem. And I still do have a problem with you doing all of this that you do. You pour all of this in, and these people still grow up to they leave you. They do all this stuff. You just don't know what you're going to get. And so I'm going to let y'all talk about if you idolize your children.
So I would like Selena to. We were having a conversation before we started recording.
Okay.
So I would like to go back into that because
I'm sitting up
I think
today.
there's some meat to that. So I asked the room.
Can we say the definition first of idolizing?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Come on, Selena.
That would be helpful.
What you got?
Oh, we're gonna read this again.
Yeah.
Give me one sec. So, to admire and respect, this is a different one. Just to admire and respect someone very much, often too much. There's another one here. Let me go back to the one that we talked about, and it added to love someone excessively.
Excessively, yeah. So, and I think the problem that when we see children idolization, because I think a lot of people out there would be like, I don't idolize my kids, but then we do see a lot of overly admiration for people having kids. And honestly, we see this played out on TV a lot of times too, where, it's the little pageants and all this stuff where, they're putting their kids on the pedestal. That's on an extreme level.
Yeah.
But on a subtle level, we see people live vicariously through their children as well.
Yes.
So with that definition being said, I know we try to bring it biblical, and now we're church kids having a conversation here. I had asked the room, biblically, if you had a husband and a child, and I say husband because we have women here, but if it was a man, woman, whatever. Mm-hmm. And I specifically am asking this because it's different, I believe, for a man making this decision as well, as we were probably going to see with Selena, is that if you had an option to save your spouse or child, who are you supposed to save biblically, right? So before we get to Selena, what was your answer?
Well, I mean, the right answer, if it's biblically, which, can you please give me that address? Because I don't know where it's at. I So, but it would be husband, right? But I'm thinking, this is what I'm thinking. I'm not saying it's biblical or anything, but to be honest with you, like, even in Bible times, I feel like leaving your legacy is more important, right? That's why the men wanted boys or whatever, to pass on that legacy. You want your legacy passed on? We choosing this child. Bye.
Okay.
So, okay, before I answer, because I'm trying to, and I'm not a biblical scholar. Mike's probably
I am now.
knows which scripture. I would love to know, like you saying biblically.
I'm going light on it, so I can't name the scripture right off top, but I'm going off.
Right, that's fine too. I just mean in general.
I'm going off order of operations that is presented to us in the Bible, and I know that that's controversial, so I'm not going to get into it too deep. But that's what I'm using as the example.
So my answer is no. I'm not saving my husband before my children.
Okay.
So, and I mean, okay, don't laugh at me, but I love Little House on the Prairie, right? Mm-hmm. Like I literally just got all 6 seasons, and my daughter hates the fact that I got it, and like outside is not seeing me because I got Little House on the Prairie. Wow. And one of the reasons I love that show is because of the family, right? Mm-hmm. Charles Ingalls is there with Caroline, and I've seen how they function. And I'm not saying I'm like trying to be exactly like them, but when I think of the family, a lot of what they do is what I think. And I've seen like, episodes where it's the same thing. The children are in trouble, and it's like, they're both parents are always protective of the children first. So I feel like the type of husband that God would bless me with, he would automatically want me to be like, you got to go get the kids. Yeah. Don't come for me. He'd probably be mad and probably ruin the marriage afterwards. You came for me. Like, that's my son that you left in there. Like, that's my daughter. Yeah. And it has nothing to do with whether it's a biological relationship between, but I just believe that as parents, that's an automatic like protection that you have for your kids. So it's like, I'm going to go get this child so that they can live. Mm-hmm. And that's just, my thought process on it. I'm going to get my kids first.
Yeah. I don't think there's any, so let me be clear. I don't think there's any, I said the biblical right answer. Let me revert that back before I get kicked off the show. I don't think there's any wrong answer. And I'm not saying that the real world answer is incorrect, because I believe with you, Selena, that if my wife came in to save me, I feel like I should be self-sufficient. I'm always, the whole reason why my mental capacity is that I'm preparing for a life or death fight at all times. So I want my wife to save who is not as prepared as me, right? And yes, there's so many scenarios that can be birthed from this where you're talking about, hey, well, what if, they're both 80 years old, or what if they're both 20 years old? And to your point, the legacy. So the reason why that was actually very, very good point, as usual, is the fact that the reason why I believe, and I reserve the right to be wrong, biblically, the order of operations is set that certain ways, because especially while you're still in your, virile stage of being able to have kids, you can continue your legacy by having more kids. Yeah. If your spouse is gone, you cannot do that with that person. Yes, can you remarry? Yes. Can you continue on? Yes, you can. And biologically, we are going to be prone to save the I don't want to call them less fortunate, but the
ones who can't do.
Right, the ones who can't do, right? Themselves. And and you're right, Selena, I don't think I would look at my wife the same if she didn't run into our house and save our 10-month-old over saving me. You know what I'm saying? First, right? But I did try to put a scenario where you can only save one.
Yeah.
So
I don't think you're wrong. I don't think it's a matter of you being wrong. I think it's just a matter of like just a choice. Yeah. So I wouldn't say when you said it, you might be wrong. I don't think it's necessarily that you're wrong. I just think that from a viewpoint, like even when I watch, again, this is not a real show, but Grey's Anatomy, they always have these emergency situations, and you usually hear the mom saying, if it comes between me and this baby in my stomach, take my baby, and the husband's like, no, save my wife.
Yeah.
I want you.
And that's a different call. Even that's a different call, right? Yes. Because the baby ain't here, right? And there's and we can get into that, there's a whole different connection with the mom and the baby pre-birth, right? That the dad struggles to have, right? And I've been there personally. Mm-hmm. But I agree, like, and to your point, Celine, I would feel some type of way if my wife came in and saved me, because I would have to ask her, why didn't you save my son? But I would also, I would understand, man. I would understand.
So I'm gonna ask this: as parents, can you explain the love that occurs between a parent and a child?
I really tried to give you like words for it. For my daughter,
Stalkerish? No,
I'm laughing because I'm guilty of this idolization with my daughter. I only have one child. She is 19 years old now, and I'm just getting better. I would say over the last, she might even disagree with me, maybe the last 2 years of realizing Selena, like, kind of ease up. And she's a good child. She never gave me any problems, so maybe that's what made it easier. But I definitely, when I was like, okay, how do I describe this love that I have for her? I couldn't find any words for it.
Yeah.
Because it's like she's an extension of me. She's a part of me. So it's like I still can't find words. Like I have this deep love for my child that is, it causes me to literally be speechless. Like, that's how much I do actually love her. Now, do I think I'm right with how I was idolizing her before? Absolutely not. It was way out of control. The first time my daughter started to go visit her father, it was bad. I literally would cry the whole time until she came back to me. Like, that's a problem, So I'm not saying it's a good thing, but for me personally, I couldn't even find words. Like, I just have this tremendous amount of admiration for this creation that God gave me. I think it's one of the greatest miracles. Like, I didn't even realize how it was going to feel. I knew it was like, oh, I want to be a mom and I'm going to love my child. But until she was inside of me and then until she was in my hands, it just blew my mind. And I was like so obsessed with, okay, I'm going to make sure everything is perfect for her. That's just how it was. So I can't find specific words. It's just like, she's this amazing extension of me. And yeah.
I think for me, like you said, like, to describe that love for your child, I can't literally think of a word. And I want to say my experience is, I don't want to say it's different than other people's, but my son is challenging, right? I'm a single mom and he's not an easy child. We have different personalities. And so for me, love has been more of a choice than a feeling. And so it's been really, it's not like I can give him back or, drop him off. I mean, I could, but I'm not going to do that. But I'm just saying, like, it's the love that's a choice. It's that kind of love. Because it's definitely not a fluffy feeling. You know what I mean? It's been very, very challenging. So it's deepened my love to be able to make that choice, to love him even when it's very difficult. You know what I mean? And it's mirrored how God, how for me to love that way and how God loves me, you know what I mean? And how I should be loved, that it's a choice, because there are very rough, ugly days, many days of crying, and it's just hard, And so I would say that's the type of love I have for my son. And it is a miracle, right? Because I look at him, I was like, dude, this is crazy. Like, I have a whole child. A whole child. And he's like almost my size, but he is an extension of me. And I think about the idolizing, like my child. In my opinion, I don't idolize him. You go on your dad's, can you stay there longer? Like, please, you know what I mean? Just because I need a break. But so this is, okay, let me just say this. To me, my first ministry is my family. And to me, that's not excessive. So before anything unless God, he hasn't said any otherwise, like, that's my first priority. And so my life is going to revolve around trying to, with God, mold this whole being into who God has created him to be. And that's a ton of work, like a ton of work. And so, yeah, a lot of my life is going to revolve around him. And I don't want to say him because I love God, right? Like, I think about in the Bible, what's his name, Job, and done wiped out his whole family, his whole wealth. And I'm like, I know he gave him another family, but like, dang, what about, like, it doesn't talk about Job's emotion about losing his whole family and his kids, because all of a sudden he just got a new one. I mean, he was sad and all that, but I was like, man, that would be really difficult for me to not have my son there. You know what I mean? If something happened to him, but just like any other situation, I know in loss or anything like that, like I have God. You know what I mean? And so I feel like I'm very rooted in that way, where I'm not like excessively loving him. I can say this though, there are times when I have loved him, I don't want to say more than God, but more than myself. You know what I mean? Where it's like a respect thing and a value thing, that I'm valuing his emotions and feelings and over my own. And it's like, hold on, like, no, like that's disrespect, like just different things like that. So I can say I've been guilty of that, and that shouldn't be happening. That should not be happening. But yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
Based off of that.
Okay.
So you stated revolve around. So my question is this: how wise is it to allow your life to revolve around something or someone that can be taken away at any moment?
Yeah.
Because first and foremost, you know, I wonder how, as parents, how you define the difference between protecting and raising and worshiping almost. But
yeah,
I do want to know how do you get to a point, because I've seen marriages break up for a few things, but I've seen marriages break up off of a whole kid. And your marriage was supposed to be number one.
yeah.
How do you speak to the wisdom of allowing this person that you birthed, and I get it, this love is unspeakable or unexplainable, but how wise is that to do when that child belongs to God, technically not you?
Yeah, like
Wow.
so when I think about, like, when I use the word revolve, I am thinking of tasks I have to do. Like, I wake up, this boy needs to get fed, or tell him to feed himself. There's constant, like, management. You know what I mean? I got to take him to school. How is he feeling? Therapist, this. So that's what I mean. Like, daily tasks revolve around like raising him, basically. But I feel like internally, I feel like I'm very rooted in God. And I think I earlier I brought up even fathoming, like realizing, what if I lost him? How would my world be? And that's why already deciding, if he is not here, like, it's always going to be God, no matter what, because we don't know.
A lot of people aren't there.
We don't know that's going to happen, and it's such a horrible thing to think about.
I'm sure.
Nobody wants to like lose a child, but I think that's where idolizing, where your whole world crumbles and you don't know how to even live on because this one thing is not there, and it's things that are outside of your relationship with God. And I'm not saying it would be easy, but I'm already going in with the mindset of like, you know what I mean? God, you're gonna have to get me through this, you know what I mean? And but he's already a rock and a root prior to anything. I mean, at least right now, well, forever, prior to anything happening. But yeah, I think I was just talking about like daily tasks revolving around it, because I got my own life. Like, I still do ministry, I got hobbies. Like, one of my friends, she was like, I like you, like, you're one of those parents who actually have a life. I said, yeah, I do, because my identity is not, my identity is a daughter of God, not Zaylen's mom. That's one of the hats that I wear, but so.
That's good.
Yeah.
I think, to add to what Janelle says, I agree with everything she says, is that I think it automatically, when you become a parent, and even if you add that on and you become also a spouse, your life does revolve around your family. It just automatically, as a woman, at least for me anyways, let me just speak for Selena, because I know those moments. I don't have to do that anymore, thankfully, but you get up and you have those people on your mind, and because you all automatically, I believe, especially with a marriage, it's an attitude of service that you're doing to your spouse. That's my belief. So now in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, what do I have to do? And it's not about the whole, okay, I'm serving my man, but I'm just saying, is he okay? I'm starting to think about, okay, does he need this? Do my children need this? So it automatically happens where it's not that you don't do other things, because I still went out when my daughter was younger with my friends and did things, but it was planned around her. what time I had to pick her up, what time I had to drop her off. So it was directed around there. I think the difference is there are some people whose lives are consumed by their child.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
where it's a problem, where they do nothing else. And that's why sometimes you will see marriages being destroyed, because I've seen couples where the one parent or maybe both are just obsessed with these children, and all they do is focus on the children and their events and everything. Then the children leave, and these two people are like strangers. They don't know each other because they spent the last 18 years focused on this child. So now they're looking at each other like, who are you and who are you? Because they've never spent any time. Wow. So I definitely, for myself, know that she definitely, and even now, like I don't do it as much as, like I said, because she's 19, but I still have her in mind when I'm making decisions on certain things. Okay, let me check in with Brianna and make sure everything is good. I just don't get up and do whatever I need to do without checking in with her. So that's part of what happens. Like, I think it's just an automatic trigger that I know that I got to get up and make sure everything's good with my family first.
Yeah. And I want to follow that up with saying that we're not, first of all, let me give both of you moms props, because we're kind of getting in your business, right? But I appreciate you being candid with the comments, and I don't want to shame good mothers into thinking that I need to hit the brake on being a good mother because it may be idolization. There is excessive admiration that can happen, and it doesn't have to be all the time. Like Selena said, like sometimes it's a roller coaster. So to even speak for myself, I think I idolize my kids as a roller coaster. Sometimes I did, most of the time I didn't. But like, I'm a guy, and my service to them, or what God imbued me to do for them, is protection, and that's what I feel like I provide with them, along with guidance and other things. Yeah. But and I've experienced fatherhood from a bunch of different angles, from a blended family to, not being in a marriage to being in a marriage now, and it is rewarding. So to go back to your first question, to be able to describe it, it's just hard, because when your kid is birthed, there's nothing that I felt on earth the same, and it happened every kid that I've had. Regardless of the situation, the actual birth is a rush of endorphins that is just different from anything else. Now, the follow-up to that, when having to deal with mom, is different, right? But that's a whole nother thing. But I wanted to say that you made a great point in the fact of the stewardship over a child, and how that whole relationship can break up the marriage, which you have asked to be in through thick and thin, and all the stuff that we promise on the day when it sounds good. But then as soon as we become broke, or as soon as we have a kid, and then you have one way of discipline and I have another way, and we haven't talked about that, or you want to bring them up in Christianity and I want to bring them up as a Muslim and we didn't talk about that, or you know what I'm saying, or whatever the case is, or my son is hitting on you and I'm stopping that and you get mad at me. What? Like, so there's a bunch of situations that can divide you, and you have to be prepared for that, or your marriage won't last.
Exactly.
Right? So a lot, that's why a lot of times I preach premarital classing, like that should be your thing before you get married. And but anyways, regardless of that, is that
it's important.
that goes to the initial question that I was asking them, me and Selena was having a dialogue about, was what should go first. And it doesn't always mean life or death. Sometimes it means like, who are you gonna feed first? Your 20-something-year-old son or your husband?
Or your husband.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So like, probably the person that's helping bring in the food is.
Well, if you're 20-something, you're an adult.
Hey,
but there's some
people out there.
There are some.
And my son ain't 20-something, but Lord, please.
Man, there's some parents out there.
There are some parents out there that, and it is eye-opening the way that hearing you guys talk about them, or your kids, and how you feel about them. I still feel the same way. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. But it's not a question. It's a last thought, because we're about to wrap up here. It's a last thought that I just want to put in people's mind. This was a good conversation. But my last thought that I want to put in people's mind is, being that in previous shows we talked about, especially in what Pastor was preaching about, how we kind of aren't clear on what love is, right? We kind of aren't clear on it. And so I would just challenge parents to probably put into your head that the way that you believe that you are loving your children and raising your children based on past traumas, based on past events, I would encourage you to probably go back to the drawing board on that as well. Because I think the role, and I wanted to ask, I know we're running out of time, what it really is the role of a parent? Like, what really is a parenting's job? Because we can go so many places. We may have to touch on this again. We may have to come back to this because
Part 2.
I think like 5 more questions just picked up. So there's going to be a part 2.
Let's do a part 2.
We're going to do part 2. So next week, when we see you guys, we'll do a part 2 to this. And because, you know, I just want to play devil's advocate. But I love you guys. We love you guys. Parents, I love you. I ain't trying to talk bad. I'm just saying, I know we don't always get stuff right as humans. That's all I'm saying. And then we create these other humans that ain't right. I mean, it was that. So we'll talk more. Love you guys. Check us out next week. Bye-bye. Hey, parents, I love you guys. Listen, I know that it's not easy. That's why I don't have any. So I really do take my hat off to you guys. I'm not trying to beat you up. I just want to help create, you know, just better people on earth. And I ain't saying you messed up. But I just wanted to say thank you guys for tuning in again. We pray that you guys will follow us on IG, DM us, make comments, talk to us. Please talk to us. I like to text and make other comments back to folks.
If you talk to us and you have complaints, do not send it to me. I apologize if you were offended by anything I say. And we just hope that we gave you some entertainment, some laughs. And again, we're coming back with a part 2. And if you have not accepted Jesus, as we always say, make sure you take that time to read why you should accept him and make that call. Amen. And come to Jesus.
And please like and subscribe. And just to comment, it's okay to be challenged. It's all right. It's all right. It's all love. But yeah, like, subscribe, follow us on Instagram.
And we out.
Bye.